and welcome to the last brown bag of the fall semester. My name is Igor. I will be your host. It's good to see you here. We've had a wonderful semester, and we are so excited that you are here. I wanted to tell you how much we appreciate you joining us here. And if some of you are here for the first time, we thank you for joining us, and we hope that you will join us again in the spring semester. I think one of the reasons why the brown bags have been successful since we started them 2 years ago was because of faculty and the staff who were willing to give us the time and lead sessions. And so with that said, we're still looking for session leaders for the spring semester. I know some of you here have volunteered. Ben, thank you for volunteering. If you would reach out to me, you are interested in leading this session in the spring semester, please reach out to me, and I'm happy to meet with you. For those of you who've been here long enough, you know that you don't have to be an expert in online teaching to lead a session. All you have to do is to have an idea and meet with me. We can make it happen. So before we get started and hand it over to our speaker, we have an important announcement. Over the last few months, our unit has been working with Inscribe, which is a platform that allows for community building. So we thought that one way for us to continue to build a community of online instructors around online learning is to provide a space to share resources, to share updates. And so I'm going to ask Dr. Jason Johnston to share a few details about the Inscribe initiative.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, we're really excited about this new tool that allows for a space that we can have asynchronous conversation, and all of you can help lead this conversation as you wish. I wanted to give and this is going to be really quick, just a quick little overview of it, and then I'll put the links in the chat. But it's called Inscribe, and it has a kind of a social media kind of feel to it. However, it is local only to UT staff and faculty that you can join into this community. Right now we have it set up the conversation with news and events and questions and conversations here, and articles and resources. And it's really pretty straightforward, because these tiles represent different either resources or conversations that have been started in this community. And you typically will see the most recent ones that will come up here to the top. And if you want to respond to something, for instance, Igor started a conversation about today's brown bag. What insights did you gain from this session? What are the questions you have? And so if you wanted to, you could jump in here and ask your question, continue the conversation. The hope for this is that it really does create a community where we can continue the conversation outside of these kind of events. And you can like things in a social media kind of way and post resources and so on. Yeah, so Igor put up the join link there. You should be able to use your regular UTK login to be able to get in. And thank you to Rosie and the OIT team to help us to integrate this so that it makes it easy for people to jump in there and also makes it secure. I'm also going to put into the chat a member guide that Sue, one of our team members, put together just in a Google Doc if you have any kind of questions about going through. But the idea is, within this community, that it's not just about responding to questions, but that as you have questions, as you have news and events or other things that you want to startup, particularly from a digital learning and online learning standpoint, that you think would be interesting for us to talk about, or that you have a question for the community, this is where you can very easily click on and either share something and ask a question. It's really simple, and then post and start conversations like that. That's it. We hope you join and you continue to connect with one another.
Thank you, Jason. And so you know, after Thanksgiving, we're going to send out an email with the link to formally introduce it to the larger community. Again, the community here are those who attend our brown bags and online learning community practice sessions. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that you guys are all getting early access.
Yeah.
Special VIP early access. So please give us feedback if there's anything that you have any questions about. And Igor will send out an email as well with more of a formal invite link.
Yeah. So can everybody see my slides? Yes. Okay. Yes. Wonderful. So so to save time, of course, we have quite a few team members here. We're not going to have them introduce themselves, but so you know, we are here to help online learning. And you have any questions, you want to schedule a consultation, our team is here to support you in any way we can. I said earlier, we need the faculty for the brown bags, spring 2024. And then our next and final online learning community of practice is on November 28th at noon. It lasts 45 minutes, and it is led by one of our team members. And now it is my pleasure to introduce to you today's speaker. May I ask you, how do you pronounce your first name?
Oh, Makhosazana.
Okay, Makhosazana. She goes by Kosi. Lunga, she's a PhD candidate in the Learning Design and Technology program. And she's also a learning technology specialist in OITC. She's one of our great colleagues from the Office of Innovative Technology, specifically in the Teaching and Learning Technologies department. She finds immense joy in helping others teach and learn better in an online learning environment. Of course, that is the reason why she's agreed to lead a session today on group work in an asynchronous learning environment. So Kosi, please take it away.
Thank you, Igor. I will go ahead and share my slide. Is everyone able to see it?
Not yet.
Can you enable the screen sharing, please, Igor?
Okay. Yes, I just did. Hold on.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Can everyone see it? Are you seeing? Oh, are you seeing my notes? Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, and welcome again to this session. As Igor said, I am Makhosazana or Kosi Lunga. And today we'll be talking about asynchronous, creating groups in an asynchronous learning environment. Specifically, we will talk about why it's important for students to work in groups. We'll briefly touch on one of the theories that I think aligns well. It's one of the theories that align well with working in an asynchronous group or collaboratively for students, and also touch on some the importance of helping students work in groups in an online working environment right now in class, so they can be better employees or employers in teamwork and in a work environment. We'll also, hopefully with time, go into Canvas and work on creating a group, and also touch on some of our best practices on creating groups. If you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat function. You can also use one of the, you can raise your hands, and I'm happy to answer any questions that come up. Okay, So I would like for us to have a very interactive communication type of presentation going on today. I have put in 3 questions, and these questions are in Padlet. I will put the link in our chat right now. Or you can also use the QR code. And please answer the questions that I have there. The first question is, have you implemented online group work before? Which tool have you used to implement which tool have you used when you were creating group work? And what was your experience? As I said, you can use the Padlet login using the QR code, or I am putting the link in the chat right now. You can click on the link that's in the chat and access the Padlet. And if you have any issues, please let me know. And please, you can also use the chat function if you prefer, and we can communicate, or unmute yourself and let's talk. That's still okay. I see one person says, under experience, I've done breakout rooms on Zoom. I haven't had a great experience with that. And I've assigned discussion activities on Canvas using small groups. I'm getting mixed feedback. Some students like it and others don't like it. And that's a very interesting observation. And I appreciate you putting that there for us. If it's okay with you, guys, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, if it's okay with you, can you also unmute yourself and let's talk?
Hello. I've also done group work on Zoom with the breakout, but it hasn't always worked out great. I feel like it's kind of the same issue with the classroom. Some people kind of like just let everybody else do the work. So I think there's just some similarities with, doing group work online versus like in person.
Okay.
And I've done asynchronous groups. So to build on that, I had to I changed them from collaborative learning groups to collaborative learning partners because they had less of a tendency to abandon the group when it was 2 of them versus a group. That makes more work on my part as far as just managing the number of home pages they use, but I don't have to manage as many missing people, maybe 2 out of 50. But always looking for ways to make it better and more engaging to scale.
I have used group work for lab groups on Canvas, and I have quit doing this because it didn't work at all. Students just split up the work and just didn't really work together. They just split up the work and each student did half of it. I think to do group work, you really have to have a project where different people bring different experiences and bring different skills to the group. If you want everybody to do the same thing, then group work doesn't work.
Yeah, I appreciate you all sharing your experiences, and I'm hoping we will have enough time to just talk more about your experiences, and hopefully find ways to work around some of your experiences and resolving some of the issues you've experienced. And I hope I'm not over-promising. So why work in a student group? And I kind of touching back on what Mariana, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah, on making sure that students are working together and working so that they learn from each other's backgrounds. I am leaning specifically on the social constructivism theory for this one. Constructivism is a theory of knowledge in sociology and communication that states that students contribute to the learning environment. They build knowledge both individually and collectively, and they co-create the classroom environment. And so the social constructivism theory assumes that students' level of understanding, the significance and the meaning, it's all developed in coordination with others. So I know Melissa mentioned that you pair your students. And so they do kind of interact with each other. Yes, it is administratively much more work from the instructor's perspective, but the students benefit from it. Royal, am I pronouncing your name right? Royal.
You can call me Johnny. That's my last name.
Johnny. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And Johnny, some of the what you mentioned also, making sure there is some really good benefits to having students collaborate and work together. But of course, on the other end is the instructor's frustrations with that. And so I'm hoping here to highlight the good work that you're all doing, irrespective of the frustrations that you're facing, that you are putting the student center. You're making sure that they're learning from each other. You're making sure that they're interacting and cooperating and collaborating within their working environment, and so that they learn better in doing so. In the workplace, we have seen an increase in the blended hybrid working arrangements, and organizations are seeking future employees who can collaborate in an asynchronous learning environment. And so there's a huge emphasis on the need for soft skills. And so soft skills are among the traits that our employees are looking for when they hire students. And these skills are interpersonal skills, communication and listening, time management, problem solving, leadership, the ability to show empathy. And these, I'm hoping, are some of the skill traits that when your students are interacting in groups, they're able to at least learn through the projects that you give them. And effective teams allow organizations to be more agile. They're able to respond to and adjust to continuous changes in the workplace and the overall industry. So I had mentioned that we will tap into our Canvas environment, but before I do that, I think it might be ideal that we kind of go over how you can create groups, and we'll just do it first using the presentation slides, and then we will dig into it and practice that. Canvas allows you to create groups manually. You can create groups automatically. You can allow your students to also self-sign up for their groups. And it also allows you to modify your group sets once you have created them. I'm hoping with time, when we practice creating groups or group sets in Canvas, we'll be able to tell the difference between modifying a group and cloning a group, because the two are slightly different. The other one thing that I want everyone to be aware of is some external tools that instructors use, students are not always aware of how to use them. And that's one of the questions I asked is, what tools are you using? As OIT, there are tools that we support, and obviously we strongly like and encourage instructors to use those tools. If you have other tools that you'd like your students to use, just at least make sure that your students are aware of how to use those external tools. And one other requirement is to assign the groups before publishing your assignment. And once your assignment is published and your students have submitted their work, you cannot make any changes to your group. You need to be aware of that. Are there any questions before I move on? So why am I advocating for instructors to use Canvas to create groups? Besides the fact that I like Canvas, I like it a lot. It does allow instructors to create a private collaborative space for students. Students are able to share content, they can share files, they can have their own private chat space. And there's also some level of instructor and student interaction that can happen. And if an instructor wants to keep track and communicate with their students, they can do so within this group space. I had initially thought that we'll use the Padlet, but I'd like to open for everyone to just maybe share what are some of the best practices that they've implemented when designing groups in Canvas or any other format. You can unmute, you can use the chat if you wish, or even use Padlet.
Hi, everyone. This is Enilda Romero Hall, the Learning Design and Technology program. Thank you, Cozy, for your presentation today. I really appreciate it. I think probably one of the best practices that I have done designing groups in a synchronous, like online format was using Google Slides or a Google document so that all groups are, primarily Google Slides, so that each group has a slide that they're working on within the Google slide, and then the outcome of that activity is in one Google slide document. I hope that makes sense. So that when we come back to like a main room from a breakout room, everyone's work can be showcased easily. So there's not like a multitude of different Google documents or Google sites out there. And it just helps capture the work, and it helps everyone, see that they're doing the work too, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Oh, I see also in the chat, using Google Forms to gauge students' interest in organizations. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm catching up on chat right now. I've used breakout rooms in Zoom, but mostly those involve conversations. Google Docs. So it seems Google and Google Docs and some of the tools that I use set clear guidelines to establish roles if it's a larger group. Created groups at random, mostly through the breakout feature in Zoom, more for synchronous than asynchronous. Okay. I appreciate everyone's sharing. Thank you. Yeah. So, it's interesting that Dr. Enilda mentioned, making sure that you provide opportunities for students to interact and having all that in one page. And it seems if you're using Google Docs, that works as well. One of the best practices is also understanding why. What is your objective? Why are you creating groups? How is that aligning with the overall course objectives? So the group work that you're giving, how is it aligning with the overall group course objectives? And how is it connecting the group work to real world work? Because this is really important, the application element of the work that you assign to your students, it has to enable them to, again, develop the skills we talked about earlier, the interpersonal skills, or all the soft skills that industry is looking for. Also provides opportunities for students to share their background, their knowledge and understanding, going back to one of the points we talked about earlier. What we've also seen is having instructors provide rubric and more detailed instructions. I think that's also one of the comments that was given, just being clear on what students should expect. I think that is also one of the important things that you have to keep in mind as you build your group or your group projects. And building in check-ins early on as the project starts and midway, because groups, there are a lot of dynamics. I think someone mentioned that earlier. The dynamics in group work will, to some extent, require an instructor to constantly be checking in. And of course, be open to feedback. Students have a lot to say, and some of that stuff is good. And so it's good to take it into consideration as you build and as you refine your courses from one semester to the next. Some of the feedback questions to consider are, what did you like about this project? What was most effective? What would you do next time? You know, it's interesting when you, I'm tempted to use the word poke, but that might not be the right word. But when you probe, I think probe is the right word. When you probe and ask students for further explanations, you'll be amazed at the ideas that they will give you. So be open to asking questions that will prompt students to tell you more, to help you improve your courses. I must also mention that, of course, there are limitations with working in Canvas, and you always have to be aware of what those limitations are and try and again, go back to your why. Is using Canvas to build groups meeting my why? And that's a question you have to constantly ask yourself as you build your group projects. Name the course group with an abbreviation of the course name. And oftentimes students, especially in the undergraduate level, they take a lot of classes with them. And so all those classes are listed in their Canvas dashboard. Having a distinct name listed and labeled for the group that aligns with your course helps the students to know exactly which course or group project they're working on. Set up your grading ahead of time. That will also eliminate a lot of issues that will come up after students have submitted their work. And also, once again, ensure your students are familiar with Canvas and any other integration tool, such as Google Docs or MS Teams or MS Office that is used. It's really important that students are familiar with the tool. Are there any questions before I move into the practical aspects of our presentation today?
There are a few comments in the chat from Dr. Bob and Jennifer Clapp.
See, intentional buildings and group leading. I assign group leaders who want leadership experience. Okay, that's great. I noticed my students prefer to work privately in GroupMe rather than in Canvas, where I can see their work and communications. That's interesting. Is that something that is communicated ahead, Jennifer, that they can work in GroupMe privately instead of using Canvas? And then do they post their work later?
Yeah, they post their work later. I use groups. Well, two things really. One, I do wikis as pages, and so they can share their work openly for the whole class. And then two, they work in other groups where they work on a project together. So they usually communicate only through discussions to initially reach out to each other, share information, contact information, and then they work privately in GroupMe. Then they submit their work. So I just noticed that they privately like to speak. They don't like the teacher to be involved in what they're doing. So I found that to be a limitation to using the groups in Canvas. And I mean, I could create a group meeting where I was a part of it or do a shared Google Doc, but that's not really the nature of the project that I work on with them.
Jennifer, I was going to say, in my classes, I always talk really openly about GroupMe. I'm a kind of transfer to the faculty side from student life, and I will say that working with fraternities and sororities for years, that is a very common tool that a lot of students do use. And one of the things, again, from my experience with fraternity and sorority life, I often say, just make sure that the things you're sharing in there don't just spiral into a place that they shouldn't because of that familiarity. Sometimes I think it can be like, testing out their humor in a way that may not be appropriate and things like that. So I usually, when we first talk about, I'm fine if you want to do a group me, just be aware that if I ever asked to see it, that there wouldn't be anything that would make you uncomfortable with my seeing it. But I never asked that. But again, I kind of set that up that way.
Oh, that's interesting. I see Professor White also says, his experience, GroupMe is a platform that they're more comfortable with than Canvas for communication. So are your students then how do your students then use the Canvas group space? I'm just curious okay, I see Rosie put in, students may be comfortable with GroupMe, but instructors must also know what it can be used for that may have ill intent, including exam sharing, etc. Dr. Nelda says, I like that, letting them know that they have to be able to provide access as needed. Thanks for sharing. I really appreciate everybody's comments and chats.
Quick question, Kosi. Does OIT support GroupMe?
I don't think that it's one of the, Rosie just mentioned there, no. Yeah, okay. It's not one of our supported tools. I see Melissa says, I put a discussion post in the individual group homepage discussion board and they reply. That's the assignment submission. That's also another way of doing it. Yeah,
I currently do peer reviews. I just did them recently. And I kind of agree. I think it was Melissa who said it. It's a lot easier when it's peer-to-peer instead of 5. But I have a lot of instructions and I notice I have to constantly remind them. But it's just part of teaching, right? So it's not like a bad thing. It's just when you want to control something, you have to manage it. And you have to kind of, nudge them a bit, remind them. But it's not a heavy lifting, but it does take time. And so you have to really budget that accordingly.
Yeah. I see Melissa said it's hard. With 200 students, I guess the number of students also determines the amount of labor and time that's dedicated to that. And it's something to take into consideration too, as you build these courses and build group projects. For sure. Jennifer says, I think they like GroupMe because it's an instant messaging. It makes communication faster. And Dr. Bob says, I think small and large discussions are more engaging when hosted on Flip. So that's another tool. It allows students multiple ways to participate: text, audio, video, disguised video, and has other features that are helpful. I can watch video 2 times speed when grading and have a rubric via Flip too. That's interesting. Professor White says, and Flip can do closed captions as well for accessibility. Rosie mentions that there is a built-in chat, instant messaging feature in all our Canvas course sites. And I think that is really important. And thank you, Rosie, for mentioning that, because I don't think a lot of students and instructors are actually aware of some of the good features Canvas does have, including the chat feature that is built in within Canvas. And so this is really something to keep in mind as well as you use all the different communication channels, such as Flip and such as GroupMe, that, Canvas also has a chat function. As I mentioned as a disclaimer earlier, I do like Canvas. I am very biased. I do like Canvas a lot. It has amazing features, and I really encourage everyone to use it as often as they can. Are there any other questions? I'm not sure how we're doing on time, and maybe we can just quickly go into our Canvas and create a group. How are we doing on time, Igor?
We're doing well. We have still about close to 20 minutes. So.
Okay. All right. I'm going to share. I am going into my sandbox, and sandbox is my play space. In my sandbox, I am going to create a group, and if anyone wants to join in and play in their own play space, you can do so too. If you have a sandbox and you want to play, you can follow along. When creating groups, the first thing to do is to go into your people, which is in the navigation panel. Just to double check, am I sharing the correct screen? Am I showing my Canvas page?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You go into your people in the navigation, and we'll go ahead and create a group set. So I'm just going to start from, okay. There are 2 ways in which you can do that. So you can either click on people, sorry for that confusion, and click on group set. When you create your group set, in this instance, I'm going to set a name, and in this, I'll call this group 1. When you create your group set, this is the group that you are going to attach to your assignment or your discussion. And in most cases, these group assignments and group discussions are graded. As I mentioned earlier on, you have an option to, when creating a group, you can allow your students to self-sign up. And if you want them to self-sign up, you will check this box. When students self-sign up, they then have, I know Melissa, for example, and I don't mean to pick on you, you said you have about 200 students. I'm not sure how many of those students are in the same section, but assuming that they're not in the same section, they're in different sections. In that case, with students in different sections, you have an option of requiring group members to be in the same section. So then you will enable that and then save your changes. In instances where you were not wanting your students to self-sign up, you could create a group manually. If I wanted to create a group manually, I would simply say, create my groups later and save my changes. If I wanted to create my groups automatically, I have an option to tell Canvas, hey, I want my group 1 to be split by the number of student groups. I want my group structure to be at least 2 members in the same section. If I wanted them to be in the same section, of course, I will enable that box. And as someone in the chat mentioned, they then assign student group leaders. If I want to automatically assign student group leaders, I can tell Canvas, you can set the first students to join as a group leader, or just set a random student to be a group leader. And we then save. For purposes of this demonstration, I am creating groups automatically. As you can tell, I have my students in group 101, and I have my other student in this group. All right. I have already now created my group set. I am now ready to move to the next phase, which is to create an assignment. I click on the assignments, and I create my group. To create my assignment, I click on the plus assignment here. For purposes of demonstration, I will call this group assignment. I will then have instructions, including downloadable documents, my points structure, the assignment group in which I wanted this assignment to be in, and the points. If at any point I wanted my students to submit any documents, I will then indicate here, and the number of attempts, submission attempts, and whether I wanted to have a plagiarism reviewed or not. This is the most important step that I'd really like us to focus on, and I want to put some emphasis on this. Sometimes it does happen. Instructors forget to enable this group assignment tab. What instructors do is they save and publish and then tell students your group assignment is ready. Students then submit. However, since this is not labeled and indicated that this is a group assignment, it will have a problem. It will not register. Submissions will not register under groups. So it is very important to make sure that when creating a group assignment, you have this box enabled. You have an option of having assigned grades to each student individually. This would be in a case that was mentioned earlier by Johnny Jr., where students are not participating or having issues with how students participation. If you want to be assigning grades to each student individually, you have to enable this checkbox. Now, remember we created a group set earlier. All I do now is to pull my group set, and I'm telling Canvas that this assignment, I want you to pull from this group one or the group set that I created. And then I save and publish. And that pretty much does the general setting. And I'm really doing a broad overview. I'm not going in detail because of course I could, but I'd really like us to, I would like to open this floor and I'd like us to talk. I guess that's what I want us to do.
I have a quick question. This is one issue I faced. When I allow self sign up, I'm really relying on them to do that, and that can be a nightmare. So, do you have any strategies if you're allowing self sign up? What are some ways to manage that better? And is there any automation in Canvas to remind them to sign up?
So, what type of nightmares did you have?
Students just don't feel, I can write it clear in the sky, right? Please sign up. But they, and then when it's time, then I don't see them signed up, and then I have to reach out to them. So it's like I said, it's a lot of that management side. So what I started doing is I'm controlling that, but then they have to tell me what group they want to be in. And I have a strict method for that. I do that at the beginning of the semester. It's an orientation that it's required. So I know immediately what kind of groups that I'll put them in. So they still have some autonomy to choose a group, but I do it in Canvas rather than relying on them to do it all the time.
Have you tried using notifications just to prompt them?
Well, that's what I was wondering. Is there a notification stream, or I'm just curious from your experience, what can help streamline that process maybe?
Yeah, you can definitely use notifications. You can also put it
Mhm.
in announcements and pin the announcement.
Mhm.
Once that's
That's a good one.
pinned, your students don't really have an excuse of saying, I missed the announcement, because it's there all the time.
Yeah.
Those are the two strategies, really, using the notifications and using
Mhm.
announcements. That's what I
Okay.
can think of. If I do
Yep, that's
think
great.
of anything, can I give you an email? Can I send you an email?
Of course, absolutely.
And actually, Kosi, one of the reasons why we created the Inscribe community is you thought about something else after the session. That would be the best place to send out so that everybody knows what's happening. And so there won't be any need to send emails to
Oh,
David, but then
okay.
everybody would like to know.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Igor. Yeah. See
Yeah.
our Inscribe community. It's working. Here we go.
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely post on that Inscribe community page. Thanks.
And Jason just shared the link to join the Inscribe community. So anyway, yeah, Koshi, take it away. I didn't want to interrupt you. So
Oh no, I'm really I'm looking at time. We have about 5 minutes, and so I mean, I know we could go in and I could show you how to create peer review assignments, as Melissa was mentioning, but I don't want to bombard you, you ladies and gentlemen, with too much information. I'm so sorry. I'm so used to calling everyone guys, but I do realize it is a bit offensive. So I don't want to bombard everybody with too much information.
I guess I have a quick follow-up question. Dr. Bob mentioned Flip earlier. Do OIT support Flip?
As far as I know, no. And I can quickly double check with Rosie, but I don't think we support Flip. Rosie, do we support Flip? I don't think we do, though.
We can help get it installed in your Canvas course if you're having troubles, but not the tool. Like the tool itself, if you're having trouble with, we would point you to the actual Flip technical support team. We'll make sure it's working, but that's like from Canvas to Flip. But beyond that, it falls into the actual vendor's lap for support.
Okay.
Thanks, Rosie. Melissa says, I want to give every group the same message on their group discussion board, not the main discussion board. I've been unable to find an answer. Is there a way to post to all the individual group discussion boards without having to do it to each individual? That's a good question, Melissa.
Yeah, I do a lot of Googling for Canvas to scale, and there's not a lot out there.
Yeah, I'm going to look into it. And now that there's an Inscribe, I'm going to post this there as well. It's a really good question.
So let's make sure that Melissa joins the Inscribe community and everybody else.
Y'all are too good to me to not join right away.
Sorry for the shameful plugs, right? In the opportunity, right, Dr. James?
I just wanted to I think as I'm understanding the question that Sally wrote, you can send it's emails. It's called Canvas messages through the inbox in Canvas on the global navigation, and you can send it directly to groups, and it sends that out to the groups. So that might be an alternative to doing announcements.
Oh, thanks, Jennifer. I missed the question. Okay, thank you.
Oh, did we miss Sally's question, or is that the one that Jennifer answered about?
Oh yeah, Jennifer has just answered. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay. Do we have any additional comments? Kosi, is there anything else that I would like to share with the audience?
Oh, if you have any questions, please do reach out to our department. I will put up information again. I'll put it in the slide. For any Canvas related questions, our team is always happy to help. I'll put it in the chat there. So please do reach out. We're always happy to help and always happy to meet everybody and learn new things because there's always something to learn. So.
Yeah, thank you, Kosi. And I was going to say, same with our colleagues from OIT. If you join the Inscribe community, do you want to make an announcement? That would be a great space to make an announcement. Reach out to our online learning community. And so, again, thank you, Kosi, for the session today. Thank you for being here. It's been wonderful to see you here today. And we'll see you again next spring. And so before I let you go, we're looking for session leaders for the spring semester of the Brown Bags. And so we want to continue to offer these opportunities. And so we can't do this without you. So please reach out to me and I'm happy to meet with you and work on session details. Thank you all. And yes?
Sorry, Igor, just in case some people didn't see the conversations in the chat, Sally asked another follow-up question and said, I'd also like to be in groups to be able to see what students see in the groups. Is there a way that we can do that in Canvas? And Rosie mentioned that instructors technically don't need to be added to groups as they have permissions to see all group content. And Sadie then said, yes, but I don't get notifications when students post in the group discussions. And so that's a conversation that I just wanted to make everyone aware that it's going on in the chat.
Okay. So, well, if we have any follow-up conversations, let's continue that conversation on Inscribe. Shameless plug again. Thank you all and happy Thanksgiving to you all.